Call to order the regular April meeting of the Clarkston Community Schools Board of Education. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. McLean, can you please call the roll?
Here. Mrs. Love? Here.
Mrs. Cybers? Here. Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Mrs. Crane?
Here.
Mr. Dean?
Here. We are all present. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public community hearing. There is a time for public comment under agenda items 3.1 and 9. Item 2 is the approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the consent agenda.
Motion made and supported. One of the items does require a roll call, so Mrs. McLean, if you could again call our roll.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Cybers? Yes. Mrs. Crane?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mrs. Love?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinnis?
Yes.
Mr. Dean?
Yes. It passes. Thank you. Item 3, citizens' request to address the board. You are given 2 opportunities to address the board. Under this item 3.1, you can request to address the board on any topic that's on tonight's agenda. And under item 9, you can request to address the board on any topic. If you do wish to address the board, please complete the sign-up sheet that's over there on the side. When making comments, please state your name and address. Address your comments here to the board president. Each person may speak for up to 2 minutes, and per established procedures, the board will not respond to questions or interact with the speaker during public comment, although we may refer the matter to the administration for further action. At this time, is there anyone who wishes to address the board on an agenda topic? Mr. Lucido, could you check the sign-in sheet, please? Okay, we have 1 citizen that requests to address the board under item 9, and we will take that up at that time. Item 4 is the superintendent's update. Dr. Ryan.
Thank you. I want to first welcome our community this evening's meeting, and want to tip my hat to Ms. Nancy Mahoney and our subject area coordinator this evening, who helped participate in a workshop for our Board of Education, really enlightening and continuing conversations on all the amazing things that are going on here in Clarkston Community Schools and all the various levels, curriculums, and instructional pieces that all kind of fit together to make Clarkston Community Schools. So for those out there listening, thank you, and we appreciate and look for that continue on those endeavors. I also want to congratulate the Clarkston High School Winter Guard on their state championship last week. What an amazing performance. I'm hoping to get them to come attend one of our upcoming meetings in either May or June, so they can show off a little bit to us and we can congratulate them on behalf of the entire Clarkston community. Also, this past weekend, we had an amazing turnout for our Make Your Girl Mania. I know that we've been doing this for a number of years for girls to get a chance from kindergarten through 7th grade to explore areas and careers as it relates to the arts, coding, mechanical, and chemistry, all the different engineering and hands-on fields. We had upwards between 300 and 400 young ladies in attendance. It was awesome, and we hosted it at Clarkston High School. I want to thank for all those not only who attended this past weekend, but for all the individuals that took part in making that event possible, so thank you. Additionally, this past week, we had the very first ceremony for the National Junior Honor Society at Clarkston Junior High that I had the pleasure to be part of, and it's great to see all of the young people that are turning out, and really that focus on community service, on scholarship, on school grades, and really putting the whole package together to to make us so proud as part of the community that they represented us. So that was an amazing and very great evening. And I want to also welcome Thomas Morton here. You can give a little wave from the crowd from the Boy Scouts of America, and also representing Clarkston Junior High this evening, seeing government in action. Thank you for being here, and thanks, Tom, to his father on being with here as well this evening. So, regarding that, we're starting that final process is gearing up for the end of the year with lots of celebrations, recognitions, receptions, everything from Clarkston Foundation Teacher of the Year to our graduations at Clarkston High School and Renaissance, and all the wonderful opportunities we have to really showcase the talents and achievements of our students as we go into summer, believe it or not. The weather's turning, and I hope if you have an opportunity to come out and support any of the activities, sports, or other events that Clarkston Community Schools has offered, please turn out, cheer on the kids, be a part of something that's really amazing within this community. So, thank you, Mr. Need.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. Item 5 are presentation items. The first one, item 5.1, is a presentation on the Technology Department reorganization. Dr. Ryan?
Thank you. We have Ms. Angela Harrison and Mr. John Lucido to talk about kind of the future of technology, knowing that it's been an evolution within Clarkston, that it's hard to believe that it was less than a decade ago that we didn't even have wireless within our buildings, in my tenure here as superintendent even. And in that time, we've not only grown, obviously, past wireless to one-to-one to amazing integration of technology within our educational programs, and looking at a point in time and how we support technology in Clarkston. It can't be a static forever thing. It really needs to be something that evolves with the technology, with the assets, and with the educational aims of how we integrate it. So this evening, Ms. Angela Harrison and Mr. Lucido will be kind of proposing again the look at what we see next year and moving on for the next couple of years at least in terms of how we plan to support it. Thank you.
Good evening. Okay, so you can put up the current technology organizational chart. The department this is how we're currently laid out with 2 administrators of technology, one on the infrastructure side, one on the instructional technology side. This has worked out great for us over the years because as we implemented new technology, the teachers needed to learn how to integrate that technology into the classroom. It was a lot for them, and having someone on the instructional side, I'm not an educator, I am technical, and so it's difficult for me to speak a teacher's language, and you need somebody who can speak that language to the teachers and show them how to integrate the technology, support their grade book and different things in the classroom. So prior to the 2016 bond, like Sean said, Dr. Ryan said, we did not have full wireless in our buildings. We had a Windows lab at every building, so we maybe had 35 computers. We had office computers. Teachers had a desktop. We had an analog phone system. We had a partial implementation of security cameras. Our PA system wasn't server-based the way it is now. It was just an analog system set up in each building. We weren't one-to-one yet. And we were just moving from paper pencil testing to online testing, which was a big move for all of the districts in the state of Michigan. So some of the goals of the 2016 bond was that there was a greater need for technology integration into the classrooms. We had a goal of making technology transparent, and I think we accomplished that goal. We wanted teachers to be able to move around the classroom and not really think about technology. If you all remember back when we had Windows XP machines and everybody was thinking about technology because it didn't work well. And we wanted technology to be used as a tool in the classroom for the teachers, and again, just not something that they had to think about every second, whether it was going to work or whether it was reliable. Since passing the 2016 bond, we now have over 80 back-end systems that we have to manage and do something with that we didn't have before. You know, we have our Gaggle, we have GoGuardian, we have our testing for phishing that was required for our cybersecurity rider. Even Adobe requires a back-end system where we have to hand out licenses and different things. I may not have to touch these systems every day, but we do have to manage them. We have to manage the users in them. We have to manage policies and different things like that. So moving forward, how do we meet the emerging challenges of technology? How do we support the current systems, implement new technologies, thinking about ongoing support, securing the network, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, all of these things that are kind of coming out now that, we didn't have to think about before. We didn't have to worry about them. We didn't have to support them. We didn't have to manage them. So what we're proposing is some technology divisions where we would have a director of technology, we would have a technology division. Under the technology division would be the technical things, infrastructure, switches, wireless, phones, storage area network, our virtual environment, our Active Directory environment, cybersecurity, disaster recovery. Under the instructional technology division is integrating technology in the classroom, teacher support, 21st century curriculum, supporting teachers in learning, using GoGuardian Teacher, using Synergy Gradebook, using Google Docs, just all of the things that teachers may need assistance with everything else that they're doing in the classroom. They want to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, how do I do this? Or we need an IT to say, hey, this would be really cool in your classroom. Let me show you how to implement that. And then the information technology division is a current position that we have in the district right now. Holly Johnson runs our Synergy student information system. It's a big system. This position used to be under the technology department, and then it kind of moved off under pupil accounting. We're just proposing to move this back under technology with, of course, still a dotted line to pupil accounting because the system touches everything from technology to pupil accounting. So this would be the new proposed org chart. We would have the Director of Technology. This director would provide leadership for short and long-range planning for technology to support teaching and learning. They would manage all of the technology staff to ensure robust and reliable infrastructure. They would manage the instructional technology staff to determine and implement appropriate use of technology for instruction, staff evaluations, budgeting, oversight of one-to-one, cybersecurity, oversight of disaster recovery. This technology manager would help the director of technology and get more in the weeds on the infrastructure side. So they would assist in managing the technical side of the technology department, forecasting technology, what does it look like, looking for emerging technologies, how do we do things better, managing technology refresh, and assist in budgeting, forecasting. We're proposing hiring a network administrator who would focus on managing the Active Directory, the backbone of our system, managing our VMware, implementing network security, and managing the backups, and just kind of doing network administrator type things. We would be looking at creating a position that is a technology administrative assistant. This person would just answer phone calls and help manage the one-to-one warranty and repairs, which is a big job. We have over 8,000 Chromebooks, and on any given day, if you go through a year and you have 10% of your fleet that needs some kind of repair or something like that, you're looking at 800 devices throughout the year that have to be touched in some manner. We would create a position to help manage the 80 back-end systems that we have. And like I said, not all of them are, Active Directory and VMware. We have so many systems that are our Jamf system for managing iPads. We have a system for managing Adobe. We have systems that manage just about everything that happens in the district. All of a sudden, there's a system for it. And then, of course, moving the student information system coordinator to the technology department. And that's what I have.
So if the board is supportive of this new structure, our goal was to bring those changes in the personnel actions at the May 13th meeting. We've ran some preliminary numbers on there. Of course, we don't know who's going to fill these roles, but we do anticipate a savings from this. There's positions being eliminated with the 2 administrators, and we do think that there would be a little savings with this, but we can update the board after these positions are filled based on the people's experience.
Any questions or comments? Ms. Sivers?
So the 2 positions that you're looking to create, how do we handle those issues now? How do we handle the issue of the device repairs now? And how do we handle the 80+ systems management now, currently?
So Michelle Johnson, who is our current help desk, she's retiring in June, and I'm retiring in June, so I'm not sure if you guys, so that's kind of what started this whole process of thinking about how do we leave technology, in a good place, and how do we prepare it for the future. So I do a lot of that. So my position currently, I do the administrator of technology role, and I am the network administrator. So because I have implemented in those 5 years most of those systems that come in, I manage a lot of that. So we're going to start trickling that out so that it's not just one person, because it can't just be one person. It needs to be multiple people, and there needs to be some backup to those people so that, if somebody's out for a day or something, other people can pick it up. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Anything else from any board member?
Very supportive. I think this is a great way to reorg and good opportunity to take advantage of this. We've got a lot of expertise that we need to replace that will be leaving. If the option of keeping you is not an option, then I think this is the next best thing that we can do.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Item 5.2 is our strategic planning update. Dr. Ryan.
Thank you. And I'm going to Ms. Mahoney go up to the stand and walk us through the process. And at a high level, we're very early on in this process. If you look at our last and previous strategic plan that has served the district extremely well, and what a high degree of reciprocity, involvement, engagement that it had, and it was very much our guidepost. And you can't go through a meeting in Clarkston or any type of planning session without a reference to our strategic plan. It's a very living document, and it had a lot of hands on it to go through. And I was kind of humbled as superintendent because my personal piece on this, working with an amazing Board of Education, that it's collectively with our community a team effort. And as we go through the process, even at the very early stages, to really kind of stretch to not only see the expertise, wisdom, and experiences we have in the school district, it's going to be my charge to also make sure that as a superintendent and board leadership team that we're also stretching to make sure that our community is involved in this process, both our educational stakeholders and families, but the larger Clarkston community as a whole. And I'm excited as we start down the road. And I think collectively, it's extremely important that there's not one stage in the stage, that this really needs to be developed by a wider group representative of our community to end us in a really strong place. And then as your chief executive working with our Board of Education, I plan to do absolutely everything possible within my means, abilities, skills, and experience once we have a plan moving forward to bring it into this world and make it real and move it forward. So Ms. Mahoney is going to talk about the initial baby steps, but it's very, very exciting. And I think I can also say on behalf of our team, as we come to the conclusion of our current strategic plan, that none of us have ever been part of a process that we actually felt when it came to strategic planning that had such a high yield with effort and outcomes, and we want to keep that dream alive moving forward. Thank you, Ms. Mahoney.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. And it's exciting, I think, to stand here as we talk about our strategic plan and thinking about a new revised strategic plan. The current strategic plan, as you know, entailed a mission statement, a vision statement, and 4 pillars of excellence. Those 4 pillars of excellence, I believe, have served our system very well. And I think that's the challenge as we move forward into a new strategic plan, is that we know how important a very strong strategic plan, one that we believe in, one that we can partner with our Board of Education in every, I think, facet of our system, including our families, are tied together. And that's what I strive for, because it's almost like I'm mourning this strategic plan just because I lived, breathed every day and would speak to it. And I think I'm not the only one that would speak to it. So we're going to move forward. We're going to move strong. I do want to highlight a few things tonight in terms of how we're moving forward, and certainly looking for your blessing and your support. As we look at the new revised strategic plan, and this would be from 2025 to 2030, our mission statement that we currently have been using, we believe, is serving us well. And it is our thought that this could serve us well from 2025 to 2030. And so that our school system, Clarkston Community Schools, creates a learning environment where students, staff, and families, we love the 3 pieces there, continually, that they are challenged, healthy, engaged, safe, and supported. And again, when we think about safety, we're thinking about physical, but also our emotional safety within our students, staff, and families. So we like this. We want to keep it. We certainly want your thoughts on that. But we believe that this not only has served us well, but will continue to serve us well as we lean into this mission.
And the administration and our entire team is very interested in engaging every one of you as we kind of start the process, to not only this evening to start it, but we want your collective feedback. We really want this to be a statement of the Board of Education as it represents this team as it pushes into our community.
Absolutely.
My only thoughts on the mission statement are, we don't necessarily speak to giving every student everything they need. I feel like that's a foundational element that we've developed, in the last 5 years, say, that may belong represented, like, right at that top level. We want all students to have everything they need so they are challenged, healthy, engaged, safe, and supported.
Yeah, we're going to keep
Thank you.
that mindset of feedback, and then as a team, we're going to try to be able to combine the collective thoughts like that into this statement, any revisions, and then to get a final approval. This is kind of like our kickoff,
Yeah.
as it were. So you don't have to come up with it all tonight. I just want to keep sharing this, because this has to be if it's not an interactive up and down the road here process, I don't think we're going to be as happy with it. And I really feel like every board member needs to feel a sense of ownership, and the team as a whole needs to collectively be able to push it forward.
So when we looked at our vision statement, we did reword it. The message is absolutely consistent. We wanted to kind of put students at front and center when it came to a vision. And so taking our old and rewriting, we put students on the forefront, saying that students of Clarkston Community Schools believe they can achieve their dreams and are well prepared for a future that excites them. Again, just rewording, putting students first, literally in the word. And so we have developed a full team list, and that is a link. And if you click on that, you will see 48 people that we have tapped to join the full strategic planning team. And so you'll see central office administrators, building administrators, teacher leaders. We have our subject area coordinators. We have coaches, and that means instructional, special programs. We have special education a part of this, technology. We would like 2 board members to serve on this team, including parents and community members. And so it's a wide range, I think, of lenses when it comes to this community in serving our students and staff, as well as our families. So we're excited. This is the full team list. Our first meeting will be this Thursday, and I'm going to now present kind of the timeline of what we're thinking about as we end this year and look into next year. And so really, as we end this year, it's April now, we look at May and June, we're really focusing on where are we now? And so when we look at our current strategic plan, we need to review our mission, vision, pillars, and goals. And this does include you as our board as well. We want to take an environmental scan, and that's really looking at data, looking at research. And we also want to tap into a survey to see what is our community thinking in terms of our current strategic plan. Is there anything new that's on their minds in terms of how we can support within our buildings? And again, continue these full team meetings of the 48 membership. Starting in August, carrying us through December, we really want to look down, where are we going? And so we really want to gather and review research. Again, keeping these full team meetings apart, and then we want to finalize pillars and goals. And I think it's important that we kind of set the stage that these 4 pillars of excellence were great. And do we want to keep them? Do we want to change them up? We know within the 4 pillars of excellence, we had 10 goals created, and under those goals, we developed strategies to achieve those goals. And some were not completed, and some were, and so it's really about looking at where we are now, where we want to go, and then finally, next January through May, how are we going to get there? And so we develop new strategies based on the pillars and goals that we selected, and then continue that timeline and develop that large Gantt chart. So Stacy Puzio and I really lean into that Gantt chart because we know that you can't complete an entire strategic plan in the first year, and so that Gantt chart really allowed us to extend all of the goals and the strategies over a 5-year period. Some were completed, some took longer, and that really allowed us to see, I think, the whole piece in one complete picture. And so that takes us from today until May of 2025, and in the fall of 2025, we start and begin embracing the new strategic plan. So wondering your thoughts, wondering if we could have your blessing to move forward and how this feels to you in terms of making our first step.
I think this sounds like a great plan, a great approach. Just some thoughts as you were talking and as I went through the slides ahead of time. I wonder, what shared services, how that plays into the strategic plan, whether that's sort of a research providing element or whether there's some tie in there, and like along those lines, like when you have the vision of putting students first and you say students of Clarkston Community Schools, I wonder if you would just say, our students. Because like we potentially have students that, yes, by I guess attending something we're doing are students of Clarkston Community Schools, but it could be a little broader. So just, I think we can think about that as we go through, and a few maybe overarching principles. Like I like how we want to evaluate what we did and then kind of set that aside and look forward. Like I just went through a recent strategic planning process in another organization where we essentially kicked forward what we had, and it really annoyed me. And I don't want to kick forward what we have. I want to see if there's things that really make sense to keep doing. Yes, we're going to keep doing them, but there's probably other initiatives and newer things. We have different people than we had 5 years ago, and we want to tap into their expertise. And I mean, out of that whole list of groups and folks that you mentioned, I mean, I want to really make sure everybody's got, some input into that process. And by that very nature, we should have some new concepts. And I really want to continue the focus on that, student learning and achievement piece, right? Like that is the point, right, of what we're doing is how do we continue to move as fast as we can move? How do we use our resources expeditiously? How do we get them to exactly the places that they need to be? And if we find that something's not effective, how do we pivot and try something else? And so that I think needs to be our guiding principle. I would like to see, like we look at metrics at different times through the course of the year, but it would be nice from a strategic planning standpoint to have some metrics that went with it that we could track over the course of the plan to say, hey, you know, we wanted to move some of these numbers. Are we moving them? You know, what does that look like? And I mean, we could always adapt if it's not the right number. We have better data at some point. And then I think what's absolutely critical is that, you know, our systems of support that we have, is that a big element of this is continuing that. And I'll say maintaining, but also, you know, course correcting and adjusting as needed, because we're going to continue to learn more things and have more data, and we want to be more effective in that. But keeping our momentum and our trajectory on that, so that we're actually seeing the benefit out of that. And I think we've seen a lot of benefit already, but especially I think in the next few years, you know, given what we think, that's the time when we're really going to see some major swings in, you know, what we've implemented. And so I really want to keep the wheels on that, and, you know, certainly like adjust as needed, but that I think has really got to be a central element. And then my last thought was just the connection to whatever school improvement, district improvement process, you know, my KIP, school improvement plan, district improvement plan. What does that connection look like? Because like for us as a board, you know, we look at those things a couple times a year. And so just as those things connect, I think it would be helpful at the outset to kind of understand what the connection is, so that we can really take a more holistic view rather than like we got this effort over here and this effort over here. I think that would be helpful. So those are my initial thoughts, and I look forward to going through the whole process and seeing what makes sense and what doesn't.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Heyer. I did have one question. Mrs. Mahoney, what's the process to have parents and community members on the committee?
On this committee, we can absolutely do that. We were thinking, you know, our board serves as a community. A lot of our people on that 48 team are community members as well, but we could definitely expand.
Ms. Cybers?
To follow up, that was going to be my question. So I would ask that we reach outside of necessarily district level to somebody that doesn't have, because as much as I would love to think that we all represent the community, we obviously have a very specific subset of knowledge. So to somebody that's not on the board, I don't think that we should be counted as either the community or parents. And with all due respect to the people on the team, I don't think that they should be counted as parents either, because they have a specialized area of knowledge that we would want to lean into. And also, in perusing your 48 members, I mean, obviously, there's a point at which the group gets too big, so I understand that as well. But is there a way to tap into employees in the district that aren't necessarily in, like, the curriculum teaching realm? Because I just feel like we have such important staff members that aren't necessarily represented within, like, the teaching realm or the education realm, that they would have a really great perspective to add.
I love that insight, and absolutely we can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I would just say the points that both Ms. Ivers and Mr. Heyer made, I think, are excellent points. I think we need to expand our reach out into the community to people who are not as directly connected with the school district. I think it helps to show the transparency that we have within the schools on the exterior. So I just wholeheartedly agree with their comments.
And remember, part of that, you know, information gathering and that environmental scan is we really want to pick the brains of our community members, and by large, and it's not just by surveys. I think we get in a little bit more nitty gritty. And one of my favorites, I work very collaboratively with our local Independence Library, and our directors have been, you know, as I assist in their strategic planning process, add input and represent schools to try to add in data and participate in focus groups, having opportunities where meetings are facilitated not by me or one of our administrators here, but by another community member to talk about the schools. It takes on a much different conversation, you know, because I think our biases are what they are, and unintentionally we bring things in the room because we just know all the acronyms, and we've done that before, and we've seen that before. And having a group of community members that has an opportunity to really look at what their desires within education, and we really get the minutes and the video afterwards, is huge. So I'm very much, I like the idea not only on the hands-on, because I do want, you know, parents and community members to have a hands-on approach to be involved in the process, but more I want to know what they want. You know, I want the schools to be represented to them, so I think there's definitely room for both. As far as, again, looking at ways that we do not want to lose the old with the new, because, you know, I heard from our work tonight when I was listening to board members of saying, you know, that continuity within program, that ability for us to stick with things and take them to their end and continue to evolve them is critical, as I heard, because so often we get in a situation where, because we cycle our administration or our board or different kind of things become fads in education, we're constantly chasing our tails and never really achieving anything. And having a strategic plan that acknowledges, yes, we do not want the same old blueprint just to keep on going, but we want to make sure that it takes a point in time where we are and grows it further, and we don't lose that. And along with the metrics, you know, it's intriguing looking at feedback from our board, even on themselves, and working with our school district, you know, that we've drafted a proposal for, and it's going to be coming to the board here this spring and summer, for the annual data cycle of the things that we're looking at, and making sure that that's lock and stock with our strategic plan, and those comparative schools that, you know, we're recommending about 8 other school districts that we think are super high quality and fit our demographics, to be able to walk along with us to kind of see where our progress, you know, that, you know, if we can kind of set goals based on that long term, I think is absolutely incredibly important. So appreciate all the feedback so far, and I think I just want to say, as a superintendent, if our board is not tied to our school district and feels that sense of ownership, we're going to have to constantly, we want to come back, if not every meeting, every other meeting, to make sure that we're getting the feedback that we need for every element of this. And that it is absolutely critical that our mission and vision really starts that process from our board, and making sure that that gels with our community. So if we don't start in a good place and foundation, then you know, I think that we're limited in the final product that we can produce and the levels we can achieve. But I have no doubt, based on the work done so far and where we're headed for this, that we're on to greatness. So thank you, Ms. Mahoney.
Thank you. I appreciate all the feedback given tonight. Thank you.
Well said, Dr. Ryan, and thank you for the comments. And if any board member would like to serve on that committee, please get a hold of me in the next day or so. Item 6.1, approval of personnel changes, our first action item. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves personnel changes as listed on the attached sheets.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Any questions for Mr. Lucido or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.2 is the approval of the contract with the Clarkston Education Association. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the master agreement between Clarkston Community Schools and the Clarkston Education Association for July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027 as presented.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Dr. Ryan, would you like to have any comments on this?
Just that I thank everybody for their involvement in the process thus far, from Mr. Lucido, Ms. Rogers, the entire CEA, and the team in their work. I think it's been for the right reasons and heading in the right direction, so thank you.
Any comments or questions?
Mr. Need. I think our community needs to understand, you know, in this world, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that we have significant teacher shortages. And I think this contract goes a long way to making sure that we don't have the leftover teachers in Clarkston. We have the best teachers in Clarkston. So I think this is going to allow us to go after and find the right candidates that I want in my kids' classroom, that I want in our kids' classrooms, and that is going to continue to give us the edge that we need to have, that all the strategic planning process that we just talked about means nothing if we don't have good teachers to execute that plan. And so being able to go after the best is really what, in my mind, why I'm happy to support this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Heyer. Any other comments? Ms. Sanders?
And to piggyback about the students, but also as hopefully a way to take steps forward for our teachers to also feel valued and appreciated when they go to work. I mean, again, unless you're living under a rock, I think everybody can agree that teachers in general just don't get paid enough, period. And if there's any way to find the equity for teachers in order for them to at least start to feel as valued as they actually are and as appreciated as they truly are from all of the parents, I think this is an important step towards that as well.
Absolutely. Anything else? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. Mrs. McLean, can you please call the roll?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion unanimously carried. Thank you very much. Item 6.3 is the approval of the elementary open enrollment resolution. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the resolution authorizing limited open enrollment for the district's elementary program for the 2024-25 school year as presented.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Dr. Ryan?
Just want to say it's part of the process. You know, when the administration looked at expanding our open enrollment within the elementary, it's with clear aims. Our aim is to make sure that we have proper, within our school district as a whole, within programs and classrooms to maximize our effectiveness and efficiencies. It's a means to an end right now, and the administration is asking for a 1-year look at this as a trial, and also that we believe in wholeheartedly that this will not only lower class sizes overall for Clarkston students, help us financially to keep the stability we need to keep doing contracts and support systems into the future, and along with our new strategic plan, and also put Clarkston schools in a position long-term to make sure we have the students to fill the programs that we want to have. More than 100 students in our marching band, or very strong CSM Tech program, or any other programs that we hold so dear within Clarkston, to make sure that we have it for all residents. So I believe it definitely is a means to an end, and I appreciate any conversations, discussion that way, and Mr. Lucido's here to be able to answer any questions as we move hopefully towards a positive vote.
And this motion is for an additional 50 students for Young 5 through 5th grade, in addition to the 25 students for Young 5 kindergarten that we approved at the March meeting. So, discussion.
I guess
Ms. Savers.
what was important to me is that in our last meeting, you know, Mr. Heyer brought up really good points. I just would like to highlight to the community that this is like a 1-year trial program. The reason that I'm on board with it is because I actually feel that we didn't have information, like answers to questions that Mr. Heyer had that were legitimate questions about retaining students from out of the school district in county. And this might be an important program to even just give us the numbers to be able to evaluate whether or not to continue with it or not. I just feel like we're missing information. So the fact that it's a 1-year pilot program is a easier yes to the resolution, to have that information so that we can have a more educated conversation next year if admin decides that they want to continue with the program.
Thank you. Ms. Green?
To go on what Mrs. Sivers said, I apologize for missing the meeting last month, but I did watch the video and was very interested in this discussion in particular. I was also willing to support it because it's a 1-year program. I would just ask administration to give more data throughout the year than right before we have to talk about this again. I'd like to know how many kids, approved, how many kids apply. How many kids applied where their discipline record maybe was an issue? How many applied with siblings? I would like as much data as possible before we have to talk about this again next year.
Mrs. Love?
So last conversation about this, I think we all value catching these kids when they're young. And as it's written right now, we could put 50 fifth graders that I know you wouldn't do that, John Macedo. I know you wouldn't do that. But as it's written right now, I don't feel comfortable with it. I wanted it to say something about it will be heavily weighted towards kindergartners or young fives. I think last year we had over 60 applicants. So we're talking about an additional 10 to 15 kids. I'm okay with filling those 10 to 15 spots with additional children to even out classrooms or lessen the class size, but I want something in there clarifying that before I can support it. And there's nothing in there that says anything like that. So I'm not going to support it as it's written.
Understood. There was some data that I was asked to bring. I provided in the weekend review, but I'd like to do it in public. We've taken on, or we've done the program for 5 years with young fives in kindergarten. We started with 25, and we've taken the extra kids in. We've taken in 177 students. 17 of those have left over the 5-year period. So that's the data that we have. When you do a program where you're expanding beyond like this, an open enrollment program, any siblings are going to automatically get in. So some of those classes are going to get pushed up. Mrs. Love, I did do a preliminary looking at it. Most of our open spots right now are in young fives. We added a lot of young fives teachers last year. We have a lot of capacity there right now. But we also have some sections that maybe we have one 4th grade section where we only have 18 kids in it. And it's really not efficient to run like that, but it's not enough to collapse the sections. So it makes sense to put maybe 4 kids in this one area of this one school. But so that's where, and I understand the board's desire to have it, and we will take that into consideration, because if approved, we'll have the ability to pick where these sections are. And if you guys got involved in the level of detail of actually looking at the grid with me, it would be crystal clear. Like, yeah, 3rd grade, I'm making this up, but like 3rd grade at Clarkston L, there's only 16 kids. But if you collapse the sections, then we're going to be at 28. So it doesn't make sense for us to do that. So that's where we're doing this. A lot of school districts to save money, and fortunately Clarkston hasn't done this in a number of years, they create split classes with these situations. And there's mixed opinions on split classes. I'm not an elementary teacher, but the elementary teachers that we have, it's a real challenge to keep those kids separate. What this does is it makes it so we can kind of fill these classes up. And by going young fives to 5th grade, I don't think at first glance we're going to have to add teachers, because we're doing this to, as Dr. Ryan has stated many times, to be able to fill those special programs in the secondary levels, but also for the values that I kind of see, because my lens is more on the business side. I think we'll be able to run more efficiently, and I don't see right now that we'd have to add extra teachers to accommodate these 75 students. And also, one other point that I was asked to make sure I make here, I know a lot of parents, and I'm a parent here too, it's a concern if you have a number of students from outside the district coming into your child's classroom. By going young fives to 5th grade, imagine having 75 kids get pushed into our young fives in kindergarten. By going through 5th grade, you're kind of spreading this out throughout our whole elementary division. So I definitely understand the concerns. Was there any other questions or data that I can provide?
Mrs. McGinnis.
So am I correct to understand that we're accepting applications based on capacity?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So if you got 50 5th graders and we didn't have the capacity for 50 5th graders, only those that we had capacity for based on whatever your established criteria is would be accepted into the 5th grade.
Correct.
Okay.
Not only that, it's my intention publicly to state we'll fill it from young fives kindergarten up for those spaces that we have. So we're going to disproportionately make sure it's weighted towards the bottom anyways. It makes more sense to have the students longer in Clarkston. And honestly, in Mr. Lucido's review of it and what he shared with me and when we did the analysis, the majority of those spots are in the lower grades anyways. And that's why, if that's the desire of the board to put that even into the resolution, Ms. Love, to look at that emphasis being very bottom heavy, then that either publicly me stating it or putting it in any addendum, I would absolutely support as well.
Mr. Lucido, let me continue to ask that the consideration would be per building capacity, not necessarily grade level also, so that the person really desired their student to go to building C, but building A was the building that had the open capacity. That is where they would also be driven, they would be asked to enroll to that building, correct? So we wouldn't be pushing any one building above their capacity just to, number one, meet the potential 50, or to fix or to increase any one grade level, because that school would become over capacity while the other school that was under capacity would still be under capacity. Correct?
Yes.
So I can support this because I've been here a long time, like Mr. Heyer. And I've been through those years where we didn't support open school enrollment under a perceived perception that we would get a group of parents that weren't as dedicated to their children's education, that it would come into the system and leave the system, and we would have the coming and goings. With a retention rate that we have for school of choice, and I also personally know people who are in school of choice, it is a commitment. It is not just I'll just put my kid in school of choice. Putting those kids in the car every single morning and getting those kids to school every single day, I honestly would like to see what their attendance and tardiness is, because I would probably suspect their tardiness is no greater than the normal boundary line students in our buildings. So the dedication of these families to bring their students into the district, which are usually border districts to Clarkston, is as committed, if not sometimes more committed than other students' parents. So because of the history that we've had since we've opened school enrollment in this manner, and because of the retention rate that we've had, I can support this program for a one-year pilot. Thank you.
Mr. Lucido, if the resolution passes tonight, what would be the time frame in terms of soliciting applications for these positions?
So we're looking at like May 15th to June 15th, and then that's when the window would close. It's a 30-day window, and then within 2 weeks of that, we have to tell them that they've been accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the time frame we would be working on. Right after school got out, that way we could give the parents, we might even be able to do extra orientations. We've learned a lot over the last 5 years with the Young Fives kindergarten. I used to wait till August, because with and that's what's nice about this too. We have capacity right now in our Young Fives kindergarten, so instead of cutting sections, we're leaving the capacity. What we would do is wait till August to see, because some schools you could have 8 kindergartners show up the day before school starts. That's the reality. And if you already play school of choice kids, so I always waited till the last minute. So now we're going to try and do this before June 30th, because I think we're going to be okay with our numbers the way they are.
Other comments?
Mr. Lucido, out of the 177 that we have, the majority of or had 17 of them have moved on, as you said. The majority of those from public schools.
I don't. They're all Young Fives kindergarten, so we could have been their first school experience. But I can dig into that if you would like that data. But I think most of them that we were their first school experience.
Okay. And I guess there was a time when we have out-of-district students attending early childhood center, and we wanted to use open enrollment as a way that they could stay. Mm-hmm. So I wonder, from a preschool standpoint, I guess if they're coming from our early childhood center, I think it'd be interesting to look at that.
Sure.
I don't love the concept of volatility, as I mentioned last time. I guess, I don't have any data. You don't have any data on whether that, you can't tell me there's not going to be any volatility. I can't guarantee there will be volatility, right? So looking at this on a one-year pilot has some merit. I guess in doing that, I would tell the administration, I'd almost go into this saying I don't want to continue it next year. Let's not plan on continuing it. I don't think, and I'm looking down the table. I could look over here too, but my colleagues on that end of the table that have commented, I'd almost, this automatically sunsets, but from a budgeting standpoint and operational standpoint, I'd really want to start from scratch next year rather than say, I think we're just going to continue what we did. I don't think this is one of those things. I'd really want to look at that data. I don't know how much we're going to know in 1 year necessarily, but we would have more data at that point than we do now. And I think, as Mrs. Crane said, that is something we want to monitor as we go. And correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously there aren't many discipline records in kindergarten because it is their first schooling experience. But if a second grader came to us and had a discipline history, we would not take that student. Is that accurate?
If they were suspended in school or out of school suspension over the last 2 years, we can deny them.
And I would like to focus on the younger grades. If we could use our 75 spots up in, K2, K3, I think that would be more beneficial. If I run the numbers, forward, if you do, 75 times, 12, maybe 13 if you use young fives, kindergarten, let's say 12 to use a nice round number of 12 grades. We could end up with 13% of our students school of choice, and that is too high in my opinion. I think we have cultural challenges. I think that's not where I want to go with this. So I would like, if we pass this resolution, I would like to add an additional motion to focus on the younger grades as a way to cement our direction on that. I mean, ultimately, I'd love to make it K2 or K3 instead of K5, but I think you're all going to steamroll me on that.
Are you proposing an amendment to the resolution, Mr. Heyer, or are you suggesting that you might offer a second motion if this one passes?
The latter.
Okay. Mr. Lucido, in terms of determining capacity, when would you make that determination? You have a pool of 150 applicants for these 75 spots. How do you determine what the capacity is by grade or by building? Or when would you do that?
I would do that in the next few weeks.
Have we discussed with our elementary school teachers this proposal? Because ultimately, the burden is going to end on them if there is this volatility and cultural shift.
Not specifically this proposal. What the complaints that we've heard from elementary, and this is kind of why we look to go from young fives up, is if I had, like I said before, creating a new section. So if Bailey Lake Elementary, and this has happened at Bailey Lake, and Clarkston has almost an entire class of school of choice kids going through. But if the numbers get too high and we add a section, what we've done is filled it completely with school of choice. So I think, and I haven't surveyed the teachers or asked them, but based off their feedback, I feel like I'm speaking for them. Ms. Mahoney can jump in, but I think that they don't want a large number of school of choice kids getting put in one particular class. And this proposal does the opposite of that. It allows us to completely spread that out.
You have worked with the elementary leadership team in terms of principals at all phases of this proposal, correct, Mr. Lucido?
Yes, I have. Yes.
I would, in this pilot, I guess I would like some of that data along the way as well. Obviously we've been through this, kindergarten, young fives world. What moves me a little bit toward giving this a shot is really what you just said, Mr. Lucido, in that, obviously if we had a whole class or, there were, 15 out of 20 kids were school of choice in a certain kindergarten class, that class is going to be different than if it was the other way around, right? And this, the way you want to fill these spots that you've presented gets away from that, right? I like that. The downside is then we have, more grades dealing with school of choice, so there is a trade-off, but having 4 kids in a class seems a lot better than 15 or 20, that are not resident students.
I just keep going back to Steve Heyer's point from last meeting. It seems like for what we're talking about, 10 or 15 kids, is it the bang for our buck? I mean, are we really getting that? Is the risk worth the reward? I'm just not sure. I'm hesitating on that.
But to piggyback off of that, you won't know that answer until you try something. I mean, Mr. President, what would we need to make oral motion to amend it to include the language of weighting towards and when I say weighting, W-E-I-G-H-T, towards younger, what would that proposed language look like
Well, I think
to Mr.
Mr. Heyer
Heyer?
may be offering that as a motion following this one, so as not to alter the resolution that's before us. I mean,
Yeah,
it's our resolution. We can, you know, draft whatever majority of the board will go along with.
And I would say, like, I don't think this is a great idea, and I don't know that changing this and doing what we're going to do is worth the bang for the buck. I said that, and I stick by it. My sense is we're going to do this, so my goal tonight would be to make this as good of a proposal as we could possibly get it, because more of my colleagues want to do this than not. You know, so in that vein, I would say all of those stipulations that we mentioned in terms of, you know, 1 year only, we're going to focus on the younger students, which if this passes, I will make that motion to do that as a follow-up, and then, you know, not taking students with a discipline record, all of those things that, you know, we do that now, but as Mr. Lucido said, there's not a lot of history in kindergarten. So that's kind of my goal at this point.
Okay.
And Mr. Lucido, you said you will be able to deny students who've been suspended. Can you deny students because they had any sort of record, or does it have to specifically be a suspension?
My understanding is it has to be the suspension.
So if we get 400 applications, you can't base it off their record. Only suspensions, you can eliminate those people, and then how are you going to pick from there?
We do a lottery. So what we've done in the past, we do, like, what we've done in the past with young fives in kindergarten, if we had more capacity in young fives, we might have said 20 young fives, 5 kindergartners. That's what we're going to do. 3 second graders at Clarkston now, 8 fourth grader. That's how we're going to do it, based on where our holes are. And then we're going to do a lottery to pull them. But the first thing we're going to do is take any of these siblings, because we have families where they have one child in Clarkston right now, and the other one didn't get in because they were in first grade when we started doing this. So we do have families that have kids in different schools because they want to give the one the opportunity that got in. So, I mean, that would be a nice thing. We will be stuck taking those students unless they have a disciplinary record, even if the class size is higher. But right now, our elementary class sizes they look really good. I don't have one class that couldn't take a student.
Why is that? Why are you stuck with the sibling?
It's part of the rule. So if you have one child in your family that's been accepted to a school just through school of choice, and then the other one apply, they automatically get in first.
And the only thing that trumps that is an exclusionary disciplinary record,
Correct.
which is only suspensions.
Correct.
Or worse.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I guess my only additional comment, and thank you for the excellent discussion, is that I share Mr. Heyer's concern that we don't have a disproportionate percentage of school of choice students in Clarkston. But I also understand that, I mean, the administration's goal is to maintain enrollment within, you know, certain parameters, and if we exceed that, then we would have limited or perhaps, you know, drastically reduce schools of choice going forward, or perhaps eliminate. So I think that would happen well before we would get to a disproportionate percentage.
President Need, I have one more question.
Yes,
Mr. Lucido, am I correct that you'll advertise where the specific openings are? This is not carte blanche. We're open for school of choice for X amount of seats.
I wasn't planning on doing that, so I want to make sure I understand. We were going to advertise that we had 75 young fives through, and then we were going to ask for requests. That's what we've done with young fives in kindergarten. We asked for first, second, and third. You know, what their preference was. So I wasn't going to advertise where my openings were. I was going to get the candidates and then go through our lottery process and selection like we've done with young fives through kindergarten, just expanded through the other grades. Unless you want me to do something different, I could do that technically, I think.
Can you give any feedback as to how your planning numbers, the numbers you're working with right now, rolling them forward, next grade, new incoming students, how close those numbers are? I know you I've already said, yeah, on first day, you could have 8 kindergartners come into the district. How close has our planning numbers been to, well, like, if I'm not mistaken, the last couple of years, I don't remember having to hire a teacher, the board meeting, starting school, as we have done in many years prior. So I guess I'm thinking out loud that maybe our planning has gotten better.
Yes.
Of course, we also know the birth rate has declined. Okay, so I don't know if you can give me any kind of statistical feedback regarding that as to how is your planning numbers versus first opening school and what kind of impact what comes has on those classrooms.
I like where our numbers are at right now for this time of the year. We study weekly. I get a report weekly that I look at that shows where we were last year and where we are right now. Right now, I think we have good. I think our numbers are. We have a lot of capacity in young fives and kindergarten. I don't see the need to add a section or collapse the section at this point. In fact, we preliminarily did our elementary staffing, and we're looking pretty even from where we're at with capacity to take these 75 students in. Without that, like, we have done that for years, added teachers at the last minute. It's not good for, you're not getting the best teaching candidate, and it's chaotic at that point. So I think we're going to be able to avoid that this year with the numbers the way they look right now.
So the risk, I mean, I feel confident that Mr. Lucido is going to run the numbers, and, you know, I'm sure he dreams about staffing levels at night because, you know, he spends so much time on it with the whole team. But, I mean, there is a risk to, you know, in late June, early July, we come up with where these students are going to go, and we offer them and they accept. And, you know, in August, we have, you know, 5 third graders move into a certain school. You know, there's no way we would have known that, no way to predict. And, you know, I don't think we're going to go up right to the limit, is my understanding, right? I mean, we're going to have some room in there. You know, if 1 or 2 kids show up, which would be completely normal, yes, we're not hitting contractual limits at that point or, you know, bumping up. And so, at least because of school of choice. And so, you know, I mean, that's, I feel like, the best we can do there. And I think we'll learn from the process. So if we're going to do it, I feel like this is probably the best proposal that we can do. And I don't want to have to say I told you so. Having said that, I wonder, from a policy committee standpoint, if this is something that we should consider, if we would put something in policy relative to, you know, school of choice, maybe not going ever beyond 5th grade except for specialty programs that we already have, and maybe a percentage that we would want to stay within. You know, I would definitely advocate for something like that if the board was open to it. I don't know if I assume we have some kind of school of choice policy right now. It's not ringing a bell. I didn't look it up, but maybe that's something the policy committee could tackle with Neola of let's put our bounds in a policy, and then that makes some of these decisions going forward easier, I feel like.
I think it's well worth studying for the policy committee, so Mrs. McGinnis and Ms. Cybers, they can take a look at that. Okay, I see no further comment. We require a roll call on this. Mrs. McLean, could you please again call the roll?
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
And one clarifying question before I ask, or before I make my motion. The way we've approved this, right? We have 25 for young 5s in kindergarten and 50 for young 5s through 5th.
Correct.
Correct? Okay, so
Mr. Heyer, you have a motion?
yes, I would move that the Board of Education directs the administration to fill our 50 young 5s through 5th grade open enrollment spots, starting with the extra capacity in kindergarten and going up from there.
Support.
Is that it?
I think so.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you had more before.
No, I didn't hear it.
May I?
Did you say starting in kindergarten or starting in young fives?
Well, we've got 50 in kindergarten and young fives, so I figure that, or 25 in kindergarten and young fives. So I don't know that we'd have more than that in young fives, so I started kindergarten. So
Oh,
we'd
okay.
first, I feel like the 25 is going to fill our young fives. We'd then fill kindergarten and work our way up from there. With the idea that we might not have any fifth graders, or maybe not even any fourth graders, which could happen.
Okay, I heard support, I believe, from,
Yes,
well, don't fight
You
over
got a
it.
first and a second over there?
All right.
support.
May I ask for a friendly consideration? Except where the sibling is already a young 5 or K kindergarten enrolled,
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, don't we? I think
I
that's.
don't
not
think we
necessary.
can restrict that, yeah.
I just want to make. have to do that. Okay. Because that kindergartner could have a 5th grade student that's not,
Correct.
that's what I'm trying to clarify.
And as long, we have to have a spot for them, right? They can't choice in if we don't have a spot in 5th grade, right?
My understanding is that we have to take them. If we're
Okay.
doing, if we're gonna do a program through Young Thighs Fifth Year, we have to take them. But again, from studying the numbers, I do not see any problem with that.
Okay.
For clarity's sake, does the sibling count toward these numbers? It does,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, it does.
Thank
Through
you.
the second set of 50, not the original 25. The regular 25 is for young 5s in kindergarten. The 50 is kindergarten to 50. That's where the sibling falls in, is in the 50? Or are you saying they're not even in the count of this motion because they're already legally accepted as a kindergarten, young 5 kindergarten enrolled student?
No, they would count.
They would count, and they would be part of the 50, yes.
Okay.
So they're either gonna, if they have a, I'm not sure if the way you approve this, I have to do 2 different lotteries. It's okay, it's no problem, but I need to, we've never done this before, so I'm like reading and telling you and working with my team back here. So I have to give this some thought, but my understanding is if they're already here, or maybe they get in with the first 25, if I have to do like a separate enrollment the way this is approved, then the 50 that's where I would get the siblings in.
Yeah, Mr. Lasay, I believe, and just to correct the board if I'm wrong, is that it's the intent of the board that we fill up the open spots that we identify from bottom up, starting at the lower grades all the way up, like you said, whatever remaining spots might be open at the upper grades.
Is it more straightforward if we just do 75 and forget the 25?
I can't actually answer, I think it may be.
Well,
But-
especially if we ask for it to be weighted from the bottom up.
Okay, so we can just take care of this right now. Sorry, Heidi. So I will make a friendly amendment to my motion to go from 50 to 75 and go from kindergarten to young 5s. So the motion would read that we fill from young 5s to the higher grades for the 75 students.
Is that acceptable to the support?
Support.
So if we pass that, then we can fix the resolution next.
Okay. Okay, we will first vote on the friendly amendment. All those in favor of, does everybody understand what we're voting on?
We're just voting on the motion, right? Friendly amendment, we don't have to vote.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
The motion is changed.
Great, all right. The main motion is before you then. Any questions or comments? I don't know that we need a roll call vote on this, so all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, I move to reconsider the, what number is it? Item 6.3, the resolution we just passed.
Support.
And I would move to amend the resolution that is now again before us to change it from 50 to 75.
Support.
Okay?
Which is nothing more than fixing the motion with the friendly amendment that you just made with the friendly amendment.
We're fixing the resolution we just passed. We're going to pass it again with a different
With
number
a
in it.
different number, yes. Okay, discussion? I do think this needs a roll call vote because we're amending.
We're gonna rescind that next.
Correct. Correct.
Give your notes to him.
Yeah. This is to amend the motion, the resolution that we adopted a few minutes ago to change 50 to 75.
But then, are we going to have to come back with another action item to disapprove the original?
No, we can do it right now.
We're going to do it in a separate motion.
Yes, separate
following this
motion.
motion.
So we're gonna vote on the amendment to the motion that's before us, and then we'll reapprove the main motion.
Correct.
And did we ever both move in a second?
We moved and seconded to reconsider.
Mrs.
Then I
Cybers
moved to amend,
That
and
brings
Mrs.
the
Cybers
original
seconded.
motion back. Now we're moving to amend the original. All
I
right.
just didn't hear the move in the second.
I'm sorry.
I said I just didn't hear the move or the second.
All right, what's before you is to amend the motion that was passed under item 6.3 to change the 50 number to 75. Mrs. McLean, can you call the roll, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion carried.
Yeah. Weighted
Give
in
me a
favor.
second. The internet is slow.
Continuing Parliamentary Procedure 101.
All right, here we go. I move to reconsider item 6.2.6 from the March 11th board meeting, 2024.
Support.
Motion's made to reconsider the stated item as approved at the last board meeting. All those in favor of reconsideration signify by saying aye.
I just moved to rescind.
Did you well, we have to reconsider it, though.
Do we?
Yes, we have to bring it back. I
Okay,
think,
so
to
I
reconsider.
will amend my motion then as a reconsider, and just for the.
That's what you said.
That's what you
Did
said.
I?
say
Okay, I'm
reconsider.
sorry. I'm ahead of myself. And
All
just
those-
for the record, that is the Young Fives Kindergarten limited open enrollment portion only of our open enrollment motions.
Point of order, am I allowed to vote if I did not vote in the March meeting?
Yes,
Thank you.
She's got to be on the prevailing
you
side.
you can't make the motion, but you can vote.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of reconsidering the prior motion from the March meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Now we can just vote no.
Correct.
The main motion is back.
The main
on the
motion is
floor.
back before us. In order to rescind that motion, a no vote would be required. Mrs. McLean, can you call the roll?
No.
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 No. The motion from the March meeting on that item is now defeated.
The record's complete.
I believe that concludes that item of business. As Mrs. McLean breathes a sigh of relief. All right, moving along with our action items. Item 6.4 is the approval of the Imagine Math online program. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the purchase of the Imagine Math online resource to be paid from 99U grant funds for a total of $119,000 as presented.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to know why we need this additional purchase, just more information on it,
Ms. Mahoney, or Dr. Ryan, can you address that?
and why you selected this particular one.
I know it's an expensive item. I think through research, when we look at engaging our students in summer programming, it offers a different way to engage students that have some challenges when it comes to math concepts. And so Research shows this is engaging. It's a little bit quicker in terms of moving kids in and out, and that's why we placed it into the summer programming as something different, and it is funded by the grant.
Is this something that went through the TLC? Or
No, this did not go to TLC, just because it's just a short window for our 5 weeks of summer learning.
Any
Be a
other
good
comments?
snapshot, I think.
This
to
is
look
not a
into the
curriculum,
future.
this is a supplemental material, correct,
It's just
Ms.
a
Mahoney?
resource.
Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 6.5, moving on to our bond bid packages. Bid package number 2 for site work and foundation at the new junior high school. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the contracts listed in bid package 2 for the new Clarkston Junior High School in the amount of $18,148,560 and allowances and contingencies of $2,314,856 for a total recommendation not to exceed $20,463,416 as presented in the attached documents.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Discussion.
yeah, I had a question on flagpoles. Why is there such a discrepancy in these bids? And why did we not take the cheapest one?
Hi, Danielle Eschner with Auk Construction. The low number as read did not have the number of flagpoles that were needed. So we have 2, and they had 1 included in their bid.
Okay. And then why was the Fessler and Bowman one so much higher than the rest?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question?
Why was the one from Fessler and Bowman so much higher than the others? It just goes from 11,000 up to 37,000. Just curious why there would be such a difference.
Oh, for the flagpole bids?
Yeah.
In the same category?
Yes.
Honestly, I cannot answer that question. I interviewed the apparent low bidder and making sure that they had the scope.
I don't think we have to close.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the next 4 items are all food service related. Item 6.6 is approval of purchase of cafeteria tables for Renaissance High. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the bid for ISCG for the Clarkston High School, for Clarkston High School in the amount of $2,013,608. Am I in the right
We
one?
jumped to the next one, yeah, that's 6.7. We need 6.6 for Renaissance High.
I move that the Board of Education approve the bid from ISCG for Renaissance High School in the amount of $55,766.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 6.7 is the approval of the bid for Clarkston High School. Mrs. McGinnis, would you like to make that motion?
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to it here now. Hold on.
Or anybody else?
I move that the Board of Education approve the bid from ISCG for Clarkston High School in the amount of $213,608.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Any comments or questions on this purchase? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.8 is the approval of food service equipment for our 7 elementary schools. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the bid from Stafford Smith, Inc. for all 7 Clarkston Elementary Schools in the amount of $487,753, including an allowance and contingency of $5,000 to cover any electrical, plumbing, demolition, and restoration to allow for the new equipment for a total recommendation of $492,753.
Support.
Motion's made and supported. Any comments or questions on this?
Dr.
Mr.
Ryan, could you just cover in this one and the Clarkston High School one next, just the kinds of equipment generally?
Absolutely, and I have my ace, Matt Severson, is going to come up to the podium, who was directly involved in the evaluations and recommendation for purchase of this equipment.
Hi, everyone. So we are recommending new equipment at all elementaries and Clarkston High School. We are redoing the whole serving lines for all 8 locations. Most of the equipment's from 2004 or older. So this is just bringing in some new life into those kitchens and serving areas. And a few of these, like our elementary schools, it also calls for a few pass-through coolers and warmers, which are beneficial because they're right on the line. So it's more serving and going towards the students when they're coming through our lunch lines.
Great, thank you.
And as far as the funding for this, Ms. Severson, did you agree that this comes from our food service fund balance and overages
Yes.
that we've collected meals, and none of these resources are coming from the general fund for these purchases?
Correct. This is all in our excess fund balance of $1.6 million. So this is starting to spend that, and that's part of what we have to spend. So this is a step toward that direction.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Severson. Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. And finally, item 6.9 is the approval of food service equipment for Clarkston High School. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approve the bid from Stafford Smith Incorporated for Clarkston High School in the amount of $383,136 with an allowance and contingency of $20,000 to cover any electrical, plumbing, demolition, and restoration to allow for the new equipment for a total recommendation of $403,136.
Support.
Motion's made and supported. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. We have no report item. That concludes the action items. We have no report items or discussion items. Item 9 is citizens' comments. We did have one citizen request to address the board under item 9. So Beth Rogers.
On behalf of the CEA, I want to thank you all for your support of this contract extension. Dr. Ryan, thank you for your support and commitment to teachers. Mr. Lucido, thank you for the countless hours you spent working on this in the midst of all the other things that you do. You have an incredibly complex job, and I appreciate the time that you have given to this. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I hope that I can help you understand what this contract means to so many people. I've had people tell me that this is life-changing for them. There were members who literally cried when they heard the details. Most importantly, I had teachers tell me that they feel respected and valued for the first time in years. Teaching, as you know, is a tough job. Yet it is one that society portrays as being a low calling. If you can't do, you teach. The reality is that teaching is one of the highest calling professions. The children we teach, your children, become ours. We call them our kids forever. We remember not just their names and faces, but we remember their stories, the good and the heartbreaking. We hold them in our heads and hearts forever. On top of this, in conjunction with this, we work tirelessly to educate our students, from the ECC to the post-high. Teachers, social workers, psychologists, counselors work to ensure that their students leave them with the knowledge and skills they need to be successful. This work can be both exhausting and fulfilling. Working in a district that supports teachers in the way that you do is invaluable. It makes it possible for us to get up each day and want to go to work. So thank you. I look forward to our continued collaboration in keeping Clarkston Community Schools one of the best districts in Oakland County.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. I am going to break from policy and comment on this. I think as a board, we are all incredibly proud of our teaching staff. We think we have one of the finest teaching staffs in the Oakland County or the state of Michigan, and it's something that we can do to reward you for all your great efforts. So thank you very much. Item 10, information items. We do have a listing, but before we do, we did have 3 of our board members attend the National School Board Association Conference in New Orleans a couple weeks ago, and I would ask if any of them would like to give us a brief report on what they saw, learned, and did.
Thank you, President Need. I won't go through the full list of what all I have written down here, but myself and Ms. Crane attended the early bird session where we spent an entire day speaking or hearing federal requirements and evidence-based practices regarding special education, which was very informative. We felt like we were the only people in the room who knew what was going on and were doing it right, so kudos to our special education department. Saturday, I attended several breakout sessions. I did focus most of my breakout sessions on mental health and programming and awareness regarding them, but I would like to highlight that our general session was Ruby Bridges. And for those of you who might not remember who Ruby Bridges is, she is an iconic figure in the fight of civil rights for education equality. She was the first African-American elementary student that integrated into a white elementary school. Her journey was very poignant regarding the minute she walked in the door. The teacher whose class she was assigned to was her mother and became her mother and spirited her through her education. It was a really impactful presentation that she provided and still very relevant to today. Sunday, I attended a class on free speech in the board, and also the general session was Dr. Timothy Shriver, who told a real funny story about somebody saying, "Do you know you sound like a Kennedy?" And I'll let Stephanie maybe follow up with what the rest of that might have been. He gave us, and he talked about a program called the Dignity Index, and I gave each board member a card here. Anybody in the audience or in the community could go to dignityindex.us to find out more about it. I thought it was very impactful, his presentation. And on Monday, I went to a class regarding we can and must give our students the gift of confidence. And it talked about the students that were giving up and talked about how to address their lack of feeling capable and how to bring them back to the table. I can also direct you to the author of the documentation that was provided was Rick Stiggins, Stiggins. He has free videos for parents and community members to be viewed on YouTube along with, I'll call it worksheets, and I found them very educational and very informative. Thank you very much for allowing me to attend.
Mrs. Crane, anything you'd like to add?
There's very little. Mrs. McGinnis did a wonderful job of talking about, especially the keynote speakers were fabulous. Ruby Bridges was beyond emotional, relevant. We were talking earlier with some teachers. It took place in 1960 when she was 6 years old, and the idea that it's as relevant as it is today is pretty mind-boggling. But she was absolutely wonderful, as was Timothy Shriver was great too. By the way, the answer to the question when she said, someone asked him, has anyone ever told you look like a Kennedy? And he said, yes, actually, quite a few people have. And the guy looks at him and says, well, doesn't that just make you mad? Only in far more colorful language. So.
And he agreed with them.
And he agreed, yeah. So as Mrs. McGinnis said, we did a pre-conference workshop all day Friday. It was called Unlocking the Power of School Board Influence in Special Education. And it was very well run. It was very well worth attending. I'm glad that I did. We had up to 3 to 4, I think, breakout sessions a day that we had to choose from. We tried to take as much advantage of all of them as we could. I did one navigating divisions that was very informative. accelerating struggling readers while strengthening the teacher pipeline, which was also wonderful. I took a couple that weren't quite as relevant. It's hard when you have the national, and we actually had a lot of the breakout sessions were presented by Canadians, which is wonderful, but they have a very different school structure. They have a very different culture even. So there were times when I actually got up and I walked next door just to see what was in the next door one. But one of the more interesting ones I went to is called Improving Governance Effectiveness Through Questioning. And I think a lot of times we all just sit back and it's how to ask powerful questions. So I, as well, thank you for the opportunity to attend. It was very informative, and I hope to have good discussions with my colleagues on all that I learned.
Great. Well, thank you, Mrs. Green. Mr. Heyer, anything to add?
I would just add, I was attending the conference in my capacity as MASB immediate past president, and I took good care of our board members. I'll leave it at that. If you want to hear any other stories, just catch me after the meeting. But we had the chance to go through our NSBA delegate assembly and swear in the next NSBA president, who is Don Hubler from the Macomb ISD from Michigan, which it's phenomenal to have a local gentleman who is extremely passionate and caring leading NSBA for the next year.
Great, thank you. Several other information items. The Clarkston Area Youth Assistance Youth Recognition Reception is Thursday, April 25th at 6:30 in this building. I'm sorry, at the Clarkston Junior High School PAC. Secondary Art Reception, Tuesday, April 30th at 5:30 here. Senior Awards Night, Wednesday, May 1st, 2024 in the high school PAC. International Night, Thursday, May 2nd at 5:30 at the high school. Elementary Art Reception, Thursday, May 2nd, 2024 at 5:30 in this building. The annual Clarkston Community Awards Breakfast will be Wednesday, May 8th at 7:30 a.m. at Clarkston Community Church. Clarkston High School National Honor Society Induction Ceremony, Thursday, May 9th at 7 p.m. in the Clarkston High School PAC. And our next Board of Education meeting is Monday, May 13th, 2024. Regular meeting starts at 7. I believe we will have a workshop beginning at 6. Item 11, closed session for the purposes of negotiation discussions. Assuming this passes, we will go into closed session and we will return. We will conduct no business after we return except to adjourn. So with that, may I have a motion to go into closed session for the purposes of collective bargaining negotiation discussion?
I move that we go into closed session for purposes of collective bargaining negotiation purposes.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Mrs. McLean, can we have a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carried. We will adjourn to conference room for our closed session.